My name is Mina. I am 29 years old. I live in a small town. I work at a guest house near the bus station. Every day, people from many countries come here. Some people stay for one night. Some stay for 1 week. They often ask questions. They want help. They want to know where to eat, what to do, or how to get to the market. But when they speak English, I stay quiet. I just smile and point. I feel afraid to speak. I was not always like this. When I was a child, I liked learning. I wanted to speak English. I watched English movies. I repeated the words. I listened to English songs. I even talked to myself in the mirror. I felt happy when I learned something new. But one day, something changed. I was in school. I stood in front of the class. The teacher asked me to speak in English. I wanted to say, I am hungry. But I said, I am angry. The whole class started to laugh. Even the teacher smiled. I stood there like a stone. I wanted to run. I never forgot that day. After that, I was careful. I stopped raising my hand. I stopped trying to speak. I thought, if I don't speak, I can't make mistakes. Years passed. I finished school. I got a job at the guest house. The manager said, "You must speak a little English." I said yes, but I lied. I was still afraid. I could understand some English, but I never spoke it. I was scared to say something wrong. I thought people would laugh again. One day, a tourist came to the front desk. He looked tired. He had a heavy bag. He asked, "Is there a restaurant near here?" I understood him. I knew the answer, but I said nothing. I pointed to a map on the wall. He looked confused. Then he smiled and walked away. My manager saw this. After the man left, he came to me. "Mina, why didn't you speak?" he asked. I looked down. I was not sure what to say, I said. The manager looked serious. "You must try. It's part of the job," he said. That night, I could not sleep. I felt small. I felt weak. I thought about my life. I worked every day, but I was not growing. I was not learning. I remembered the girl who loved English. Where was she now? I wanted to be that girl again. The next week, I saw a sign in town. It said, "Free English class, evening time, at all levels welcome." I stood in front of the sign for a long time. I was afraid. What if the class was full of smart people? What if they laughed at my words? But I also felt something else. I felt tired of fear. I wanted to change. I went to the class. The teacher's name was Lila. She was kind. She smiled a lot. "Mistakes are okay here," she said on the first day. I sat in the back. I didn't speak much. I just listened. The other students made mistakes, but Lila never laughed. She helped them. She corrected them in a soft voice. Slowly, I started to feel safe. After 2 weeks, I tried to speak. I made many mistakes. I said, "He go to school yesterday?" Lila smiled and said, "He went to school yesterday." I tried again. "He went to school yesterday." I felt strange at first, but nobody laughed. They all waited for me to finish. I smiled. I felt proud. One day, something happened. A tourist came to our guest house. The manager was not there. I was alone at the desk. The man came to me and said, "Can I check in, please?" I said, "Yes. Passport, please." He gave me his passport. I tried to ask him, "How many nights?" But I said, "How much night?" He smiled. "Just 2," he said. I felt my face get warm. I made a mistake. But the man did not laugh. He understood me. We finished the check-in. He said, "Your English is good." I shook my head. "Still learning," I said. But inside, I felt happy. I did it. I spoke in English. That night I told Lila about it. She clapped her hands. "You see? A mistake is not the end. It is the beginning." I smiled. I started to believe her. But my fear did not go away. It still lived inside me. Sometimes I still wanted to be silent. Sometimes I still wanted to run. I did not want to feel stupid again. But now I had something new. I had hope. One afternoon, a group of tourists came in. They asked me where they could eat local food. I tried to help. I said, "There is one shop near the bus." They laughed a little because of how I said it. I felt the fear again. I wanted to stop. But then one woman said, "Your English is very good." "Thank you." I looked at her. I smiled. "You're welcome," I said. After that, I started to speak more. I still made mistakes. But I also learned from them. Every time I said something wrong, I remembered it. And next time, I said it better. After that day, I felt more sure of myself. I still made mistakes, but I did not feel so afraid. I went to class every week. Lila gave us small speaking tasks. We talked in pairs. We asked and answered questions. Sometimes we played small games to learn new words. I did not always understand everything, but I did not stop trying. When I said something wrong, I looked at Lila. She smiled. She helped me say it better. I liked that feeling. I felt safe. At home, I started to practice more. I watched short English videos. I listened to slow English songs. I tried to repeat the words. I did not understand every word, but I listened again and again. I even spoke in front of my mirror again, just like I did when I was young. I said, "My name is Mina. I work at a guest house. I like to help people." It felt good to hear my voice in English. One day in class, Lila said, "We will have a small speaking day next week. you will talk to the group for 1 minute. Tell us something about your job or your life. My hands felt cold. I looked around the room. Other students were quiet too. Lila said, "You can do it. Just try. Don't worry about mistakes." I went home and thought about what to say. I wrote a few sentences in my mind. I practiced alone. I kept it simple. I said, "I work at a guest house. Many people come. They ask me questions. I help them. I like my job." On the day of the speaking task, my heart beat fast. My hands shook a little. But when my turn came, I stood up. I looked at Lila. She smiled. I took a deep breath. I spoke. I forgot one word in the middle, but I found another word to use. My sentences were not perfect, but I finished. The other students clapped. I sat down. My face was hot, but I felt strong inside. Later, one student said, "Mina, you spoke very well." I smiled and said, "Thank you." That small moment stayed in my heart. I was not the best speaker in the class, but I was trying, and that was enough. Some weeks later, something big happened. A tourist group came to the guest house. There were 6 people. They spoke English. The manager was not there. I was alone at the desk. I took a deep breath and stood tall. I said, "Hello, welcome." They smiled. One man asked, "Do you have 2 rooms for tonight?" I said, "Yes, 2 rooms are free." I gave them the keys. I asked, "How many nights?" He said, "Just 1 night." I smiled and said, "Okay, breakfast is from 7 to 10. Then one woman asked, "Where can we eat local food?" I tried to answer. I said, "There is a shop near bus station. Food is very nice there." She looked happy. "Thank you," she said. I felt proud. I made a few mistakes, but they understood me. That was the important thing. Before they left, the same woman said to me, "Your English is good." I smiled and said, "Thank you. I'm still learning." After they left, I sat down for a moment. I thought about how far I had come. A year ago, I was too afraid to speak. Now, I could help 6 people in English. My hands were still shaking, but I smiled. The next class, I told Lila everything. She clapped. "You are growing, Mina," she said. "You are not perfect, but you are brave. That is more important." I felt proud. I wanted to learn more. But the journey was not always easy. Some days I felt tired. I made the same mistake again and again. I said "he go" instead of "he goes." I forgot small words. I mixed past and present. Sometimes I got angry at myself. "Why am I so slow?" I asked. But then I remembered what Lila always said. Mistakes are not bad. They show what you need to learn. One evening, a new student joined the class. Her name was Claire. She was quiet, just like I was before. After class, I Said hello. She smiled but said nothing. I understood her. I said, "It's okay to be afraid. I was like you. But you can speak. Just try." She looked surprised. "Your English is good," she said. I smiled. "Thank you, but I still make many mistakes." We started to talk after class. I helped her with some new words. It felt good to help someone else. One day, Lila gave us a new task. "Next week," she said, "we will go to the market. You will speak to one shopkeeper in English. Just one small question." I was nervous again. I thought, what if the person does not understand me? What if I say something wrong in front of everyone? But I also knew I had to try. On market day, we went in a small group. I walked with Claire. We reached a fruit shop. I looked at the man behind the table. I smiled and said, "How much are the apples?" The man looked surprised but happy. $2 per kilo, he said. I said, "Okay, I want 1 kilo. He gave me the apples. I paid him. Then he said, "Good English." I said, "Thank you." Claire looked at me. "You did great," she said. I smiled. "You are next." She went to the next shop and asked about bananas. She spoke very slowly, but she did it. After we left the market, Lila said, "I am proud of all of you. This is how you learn, one step at a time." After that, I felt different. I still made mistakes, but they did not stop me anymore. I started to see mistakes as friends. Every mistake showed me something new. If I forgot a word, I looked it up later. If I said a sentence wrong, I said it again the right way. I started to keep trying, again and again. One night at work, a man from Canada checked in. He asked many questions. I answered him slowly. I used short sentences. I repeated myself when he didn't understand. At the end, he said, "Your English is clear. You are doing well." That night, I smiled the whole way home. At the next class, I shared that story. Lila said, "Your English is not perfect, but it is real. That's what matters." I started to believe that. I did not wait for perfect. I used what I had. Later, Lila gave us another small task. She said, "Start speaking in English at home. Just 1 minute a day. Talk to yourself. Say what you see. Say what you do." So I tried. In the morning, I said, "I am making tea. I am wearing my shoes. I am walking to work." It felt strange at first, but I started to enjoy it. I laughed at my own words sometimes, but I kept going. One morning I said, "It is raining. I need my umbrella." And I smiled. I was thinking in English. That was the real change. Before, English was only in my class or at work. Now, it was in my life. At work, I started to say more. "Please wait here." Your room is ready. Have a nice day. I even answered phone calls in English. I was still afraid sometimes, but I did not let fear stop me. One evening, the manager called me to his office. "Mina," he said, "I see your work. I hear you speak to guests. You are getting better. I want to give you more responsibility." I said, "Thank you." He said, "You will now help guests plan tours." I smiled. I was ready. I walked out of his office and looked at the guest house. It was the same place, but I was not the same girl. I was not silent anymore. I started my new job role the next week. I was nervous again, but not the same kind of nervous as before. This time, I was ready to try. I knew I would make mistakes. I knew some sentences would come out wrong, but I also knew I would learn from them. I was not trying to be perfect. I was trying to be better. My first guest for a tour was a woman named Lisa. She was from Australia. She wanted to visit the lake and the old temple nearby. I took a small map and showed her the places. I said, "This way to the lake. It takes 20 minutes by car." She asked, "Is there a good place to eat nearby?" I said, "Yes, one small place. Local food. Very good." She smiled and said, "Perfect." After she left for the tour, I sat down and wrote the words I used. I wanted to remember them. Local food. Nearby. It takes 20 minutes. These were small sentences, but they helped me. I felt like I was building something strong, one small brick at a time. Later that day, another tourist came in. He was from Japan. He spoke English very slowly. I was happy. I could understand him, and he could understand me. We talked about the waterfall. He wanted to go there the next morning. I said, "The bus goes at 9 a.m. from the station." He said, "Thank you very much." I felt proud again. My words were simple, but they worked. That night, I went to English class. Claire was also there. We sat next to each other. Lila gave us a new practice task. Speak with your partner. Ask and answer about weekend plans. Claire said, "What do you do on Sunday?" I said, "I clean my room and cook lunch." She asked, "Do you watch movies?" I said, "Yes, sometimes. I like action movies." It felt like a real talk. No books, no fear. Just two people learning. After class, Claire and I walked together. She said, "I speak better now." I said, "You do. I remember when you were quiet." She laughed. "You helped me," she said. I smiled. We help each other. Days turned into weeks. My speaking got stronger. I still made mistakes, but I was not afraid of them. If I said something wrong, I said it again in the correct way. I listened more. I asked questions when I didn't know something. I started to enjoy speaking English. One afternoon, a group of students from another city came to our guest house. They were studying tourism and came with their teacher. The manager asked me to speak to them in English. I said yes. I was still scared, but I remembered how far I had come. The students stood in the small meeting room. I stood in front of them. I said, "Welcome to our guest house. We have 15 rooms. We give breakfast every day. Check-in is at 2 p.m. and checkout is at 11 a.m. I showed them the rooms and the small kitchen. I used short, clear sentences. They asked questions. Some were hard. I didn't know every answer, but I said, "I don't know. I will ask the manager." Nobody laughed. They listened. When it ended, their teacher came to me. "Good job," she said. "You speak clearly and you try hard. Your English will grow more." I said, "Thank you so much." My hands were shaking a little, but I smiled. I had done it. That night I thought about everything. The old Mina would never say yes to a group talk. She would stay quiet. She would hide. But the new Mina was learning, speaking, and helping others. I felt proud. A few days later, I had a video call with my cousin Sarah. She lives in London. Her English is very strong. She asked, "How is your job?" I said, "I help guests speak English. I also plan tours." She smiled. "Wow, your English is much better." I said, "Yes, I practice every day. I also go to class." She said, "I'm proud of you, Mina." I felt happy. Sarah said something important to me. You don't need big words. You need clear words. You need to speak often. That's how you grow. I never forgot that. The next day, Claire told me she was going to try for a new job. It was at a travel office in town. They want someone who speaks some English, she said. I said, "You should try. You are ready." She said, "Maybe. I still make many mistakes." I looked at her and said, "We all do, but mistakes help us." She smiled. "Okay, I will try." She went for the interview the next week. After, she called me. "Mina, I got the job." I said, "I knew it. I'm so happy for you." She said, "Thank you. You always helped me." I felt full inside. My journey helped someone else. That made me feel strong. One morning, my manager called me again. "Mina," he said, "you do a good job with guests. I want to send you to a 2-day training." I said, "Training?" He said, "Yes. You will go to the city. There will be a workshop for hotel workers. It will be in English. You can learn more and meet others." I was scared, but I said yes. The city was big. The hotel for the training was nice. There were many workers from different places. The teacher spoke slowly and clearly. I understood most of it. We worked in groups. I spoke a little at first, then more. I made friends. One woman said, "I was scared to come, but I see you speaking and I feel better." I said, "I was scared too, but we can learn together." After the training, I came back to my town. My manager said, "How was it?" I said, "It was very good. I learned new things." He said, "I'm proud of you." I smiled. "Thank you. I'm proud too." Lila was happy when I told her about the training. She said, "You are a new person now. You are not afraid." I said, "I still feel fear sometimes, but I don't stop." That night, I looked at myself in the mirror. I said, "Hello, my name is Mina. I speak English. I help people. I make mistakes, but I grow every day." I smiled. That was the truth. I was not perfect, but I was not afraid. The next class, I stood in front of the group. Lila said, "Mina, can you share your journey with the new students?" I looked at the students. Some were quiet. Some looked afraid. I said, "I understand you. I was like you. I made mistakes. I still do. But I speak. I try. That's how we grow." I saw a few students smile. I saw one girl nod. I knew what she felt. I said, "Don't wait to be perfect. Use the words you have now. They are enough." The class clapped. Lila smiled. After class, the quiet girl came to me. She said, "I want to be like you." I said, "You will be. Just start. Speak. Make mistakes. Then speak again." That was the end of one journey and the start of another. I was no longer the girl who stayed quiet. I was not afraid of mistakes. I welcomed them, because every mistake was a small lesson. Every lesson helped me move forward. I did not learn English in one day. I learned it by trying, by failing, and by speaking again. If I could do it, anyone could. I was just a girl from a small town. But I had one thing. I did not give up. Mistakes did not stop me. They helped me. And that is how I stopped being afraid. My name is Sophie. I am 34 years old. For the last 12 years, I kept something very big inside me. I never spoke about it. Not to my family. Not to my friends. Not even to myself. I lived a quiet life. I worked in a school canteen. I cleaned tables, served food, and washed dishes. I liked my job. It was simple and safe. I liked the small sounds of the kitchen, the hot plates, the running water, and the smell of lunch. But even when everything felt normal, I never felt free. I was always careful. I watched people. I stayed away from trouble. People at work thought I was shy. They said, "Sophie is quiet. She does not talk much." They smiled when they saw me, and I smiled back. But inside, I was not smiling. I felt afraid. Not because of the people around me, but because of what I knew. After work, I always went home. I lived alone in a small flat. My flat had one room, a small kitchen, and a bed by the window. I did not need much. I did not watch TV. I did not go out with friends. I just wanted to be alone. I wanted the world to forget me, but it was not always like that. When I was younger, I was happy. I had a best friend. Her name was Erin. We went to school together. We walked home together. We ate lunch together. She was loud and funny. I was quiet, but she liked that. We were different, but we cared about each other. After school, we both started working. She worked in a mobile shop. I worked at a bakery then. We didn't see each other every day, but we were still close. On weekends, we met at the park. We talked about boys, work, and our dreams. I remember one day, we sat on the grass, and she looked at me and said, "I feel something is coming, Sophie. Something big." She said it with a smile. But now, when I think of it, I feel cold. Because after that, everything changed. One evening, Erin called me. Her voice was shaking. She said she needed to talk. I told her to come over. She came to my flat and sat on my bed. She looked scared. Her hands were cold. I asked what happened. She said, "I saw something today, something I wish I didn't see." I asked, "What do you mean?" She looked at me and said, "I can't tell you, but I think I'm in danger." I didn't understand. I asked, "Did someone hurt you?" She shook her head. "No, but I saw something. I think someone knows I saw it. I can't sleep." I felt a cold fear move through me. "What did you see?" She looked at me again. Her eyes were full of fear. "I can't tell you now, but I'm going to the police. I have to." I wanted to ask more, but she stood up. She said, "You'll know soon, Sophie. I just wanted to tell someone." Then she left. That was the last time I saw Erin. 2 days later, I heard the news. A girl was found near the river. She was gone. It was Erin. I fell to the ground when I heard it. I could not speak. I could not cry. I just sat there, shaking. I called the police. I told them Erin came to my flat. I told them she said she saw something and she felt scared. I told them everything I could remember. The officer said, "Thank you. We will call you if we need more help." But no one called. A few weeks later, the case was closed. They said it was an accident. She slipped and hit her head. But I didn't believe that. I saw her face. I saw her fear. Erin did not slip. Something happened to her. Something bad. But I stayed silent. I told the police what she said. But I didn't tell them the most important thing. Because I saw something too. I never told them that. After Erin died, I stopped talking to people. I left the bakery. I moved to a new town. I started working in the school canteen. I made new rules for myself. No friends. No late nights. No questions. I told myself I was safe, but I knew I was hiding. Every year on her birthday, I sat alone and thought about her. I looked at the small photo I kept in my drawer. She had her arm around me in that picture. She was laughing. I was looking at her, smiling, and every year the same thought came to me. I should have told the truth. I told myself, next year, I will speak. But I never did. Until one morning, everything changed. It started like any other day. I walked to work. I tied my apron. I served lunch. But just before the lunch break ended, a group of visitors came in. They were giving a talk to the older students. I was cleaning the trays, not looking up. But then I heard a voice I hadn't heard in 12 years. That voice, it stopped me. I turned my head and looked at the man speaking to the students. He was smiling. He wore a nice suit. He looked calm. But I felt sick. My hands started to shake. Because I knew that face. He was there that night. The night Aaron died. He saw me. And I saw him. I dropped the tray. It made a loud noise. Everyone turned to look at me. I picked it up and walked quickly to the back room. I sat on the floor. My head was full of noise. For 12 years, I told myself I was safe. I told myself I didn't need to say anything. But now, he was here, in the same building. I could not stay silent anymore. I had to speak. I sat in the back room, holding my hands together. They were shaking. I felt cold. My heart was beating fast, but my body was still. I could not stop thinking about that man. His voice. His face. His smile. He looked so calm, like nothing had ever happened. Like no one was missing. Like Aaron never existed. I waited until the students left the room. I didn't go back to the kitchen that day. I told the manager I was not feeling well. I walked home, slowly. My legs felt heavy. My head was full of old memories I had pushed away for years. When I got home, I sat on the edge of my bed and tried to breathe. I looked at the small photo on my table, the one with Erin and me, her smile, her laugh, her voice in my mind saying, "You'll know soon, Sophie." Now I knew, or maybe I always knew. That man, the one from the school, was the same man I saw outside Erin's work the night she came to see me. He was standing near a black car. I didn't think about it at the time, but when I saw him again today, everything came back. That night, after Erin left my flat, I went to return a coat she forgot. I saw her across the street, walking fast. She stopped near the shop. A man was waiting for her. They spoke for a few seconds. She looked angry. He grabbed her arm. She pulled away. Then they got into his car. I was across the street. I did not hear the words. I did not see where they went. That was the last time I saw her alive. And that was the man I saw today. I never told the police. I told them Erin came to my flat. I told them she was scared. But I didn't say I saw her get into a car with a man. I told myself it was not my place. I told myself maybe it was nothing. But the truth is, I was scared. I was only 22. I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to be part of something dark. But now, 12 years later, I saw his face again. And he was giving a speech to children. The next morning, I didn't go to work. I called in sick again. I sat in my room thinking. I looked at my phone, opened the police website, and read about how to report old cases. My hands were shaking again. I closed the phone and put it down. But my mind didn't stop. I walked to the park near my house. I sat on a bench and watched people walk by. I wanted to feel nothing, but I felt everything. A girl walked past me. She was laughing with her friend. She looked like Erin. The way she smiled, the way she moved, my throat felt tight. I looked away. I stayed on that bench for a long time. When I went home, I picked up my phone again. I stared at the screen. Then I called a number. It was the local police station. A woman answered. "Hello, how can I help you?" I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. I almost ended the call. But then I heard Erin's voice in my head. I remembered the fear in her eyes, the last hug she gave me. I spoke. "My name is Sophie Green. I need to talk about an old case. A girl named Erin Thomas. She died 12 years ago. I saw something that night. I think it's time to tell you." The woman was quiet for a second. Then she said, "Please stay on the line. I'll connect you to someone." I waited. My hands were cold. I felt like I was standing at the edge of a high place. But I didn't turn back. A man came on the line. He asked me to come in the next day and speak in person. He said he would open the file again. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed and stared at the wall. My heart was tired, but I knew I was doing the right thing. The next morning, I put on my best coat. I walked to the station. I sat in a small room and told them everything. From the last time I saw Erin to the man by the car, I gave them his face, his voice, his car. I told them where he worked now. I told them he was at the school yesterday. They wrote everything down. When I left the station, I felt light. I didn't smile, but I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I felt brave. A week passed. Then another. One afternoon, the police called me again. They asked me to come in. When I got there, they said they checked the old files. They checked the CCTV from the shop across the street. The camera had old footage from that night. They found it. Erin was there. The man was there. The black car was there. They had never seen that video before. It was sent to the wrong place back then. No one opened it. Now, they had it. I sat in the room with the officers. I watched Erin walk across the street. I saw the man come near her. I saw her pull away. I saw him take her arm. I saw them walk out of the frame. The police paused the video and looked at me. "Do you know who he is?" I nodded. "Yes," I said. "He works at the school. His name is Alan Murray." They looked at each other. One officer said, "We know that name." They didn't say more. They told me they would follow up. They thanked me. They said I did the right thing. When I walked out of the station, it was raining. I didn't have an umbrella. I didn't care. I looked up at the sky. For the first time in 12 years, I didn't feel small. I felt seen. 2 days later, the police called again. They told me they had more people coming forward. One woman said the same man had scared her once. Another said he was her manager and he made her feel unsafe. No one had ever spoken before. But now they were. Because I did. That night, I sat by my window and looked out at the quiet street. I still missed Erin. That would never change. But I felt closer to her now. I had done what I promised, even if the promise was only in my heart. I stayed silent for 12 years, but not anymore. After I gave my statement to the police, things started to move quickly. I didn't expect it. For so long, nothing had changed. Erin's name was just a small file in a closed case. But now, everything was different. The truth was finally waking up. 2 days later, I was asked to return to the station. The same officers were there. Their faces looked more serious this time. One of them said, "Sophie, we believe you, and others are coming forward too." My hands were still shaking, but this time it was not from fear. It was from something else, something like relief. They asked more questions. I answered them all. I gave names, places, times. I was ready. I no longer felt like the quiet girl in the background. I was not hiding anymore. I wanted them to know everything. I wanted them to know Erin mattered. A few days later, I saw the news. The man, Alan Murray, was taken in for questioning. He was not charged yet, but the police now had enough to investigate him properly. I watched the report from my flat. They showed his face on the screen. That same face I saw 12 years ago. That same smile. But now, it didn't look calm. It looked nervous. They didn't mention Erin's name in the report. It was too early. But I knew. I knew what it was about. I turned off the TV and sat in silence. I thought of Erin again. I wondered what she would say if she were here now. Maybe she would smile and say, "Finally." Or maybe she would just hug me. I missed her hugs. The next day, I got a message. A woman named Leah wanted to speak with me. She was one of the other women who came forward. We agreed to meet at a small cafe near the town center. When I walked in, I saw her sitting by the window. She stood up and smiled softly. We talked for almost an hour. She told me she worked with Alan a few years ago. He made her feel uncomfortable. He never touched her, but he said things that made her afraid. She reported it to her manager, but no one believed her. She left the job a month later. She said, "I was only 20 at the time. I thought it was my fault." I told her I understood. I told her she was not alone. After our talk, we stayed in touch. She said talking to me made her feel stronger. I felt the same. I was not used to having someone new in my life, but this felt different. It felt like we were part of something bigger than just our own pain. We were holding up the same truth. We were both giving Aaron a voice again. A few weeks later, I was called to give an official statement. It was longer and more detailed. I sat in a room with 2 officers and told the full story from the start. Every part. Every memory. I cried a few times, but I didn't stop. I wanted every word to matter. I didn't want Erin to be just a line in a report. She was a person, a friend, a girl with a big laugh and a big heart. After the statement, I went home and sat at my window. It was raining again. The weather often matched my feelings, like the sky understood something about sorrow. But this time, it felt peaceful. I wasn't hiding anymore. A few days passed. Then I got another call. This time it was someone from a newspaper. They were writing a story about reopened cold cases. They heard about Aaron's case being active again. They asked if I wanted to speak. I said no at first. I didn't want to be in the news. I didn't want my face in papers. But after thinking for a night, I called back and said yes, but only if Aaron's name was treated with care. The story came out 2 weeks later. It was a long article. It didn't show my face or name, but it told the story of a young woman who stayed silent for 12 years and then came forward. It talked about truth, fear, and how silence can protect you, but also trap you. It said, sometimes the bravest thing is to speak, even when the world has already moved on. I kept a copy of that article. I folded it and placed it behind the photo of Aaron on my table. It wasn't justice yet, but it was something. It was light where there used to be only dark. Then one evening the phone rang. It was the police again. They said Alan was arrested. Not just for Aaron's case, but for other charges too. Things people never reported until now. But now, the silence was broken. I sat down slowly. My hands covered my mouth. I did not cry. I just sat there for a long time, letting the words stay in the air. Arrested. After 12 years. The officer said, "Your statement helped reopen everything. You did the right thing." When the call ended, I went to my window again. I looked outside and saw a group of kids laughing on the street. They reminded me of us, me and Aaron, years ago. Walking home from school, laughing, not knowing what life would bring. I hoped these kids would never have to carry what we carried. Later that week, I went back to the park where Aaron and I always met. I sat on our old bench, the one near the tall trees. I brought 2 flowers. I placed one next to me and held the other in my hand. I sat there in silence for a long time. I spoke out loud for the first time, not to anyone in front of me, but to her. I'm sorry I waited so long. I should have said something. I should have fought harder. But I'm speaking now, and I'll keep speaking for you. A light breeze passed through the trees. The leaves moved gently. It felt like a small answer. A month later, I was invited to speak at a small event for women who survived fear and chose to speak up. I said yes. I wrote my speech on a small card. When the day came, I stood in front of a group of people I didn't know. My voice was soft at first, but it got stronger with each word. I kept a secret for 12 years. I thought it was better to stay quiet. I thought I was safe. But silence does not protect truth. It hides it. And truth matters. Even if it comes late. Even if no one is listening at first. Speak when you're ready. Speak, even if you shake. I'm here today because I finally spoke. The room was quiet. Then someone clapped. Then more people. I sat down and breathed deeply. After the event, a woman came up to me. She didn't say anything at first. She just hugged me. She said, "You gave me courage." I smiled and said, "You already had it." That night, I went home and looked at myself in the mirror. I saw someone different. Not because my face had changed, but because I was no longer the same inside. I was no longer the quiet girl from the school kitchen. I was someone who stood up. Someone who remembered. Someone who made Erin's voice heard again. Time doesn't always heal, but truth can. And even if it comes late, it can still change everything. I will never forget Erin. I will never stop missing her. But I will keep telling her story. I will keep her light alive. I stayed silent for 12 years, but not anymore. Now, I speak. We all go through hard times, but stories like this can help us feel seen. Thank you for watching, and come back for more real moments.